In the early hours between 3 and 5 a.m., a series of powerful explosions ripped through a critical Russian logistics corridor, an artery once thought untouchable. The target wasn't merely a convoy, it was the linchpin of a $3.5 billion clandestine operation, orchestrated by China to sustain Russia's war machine. The destruction of this supply line represents a significant tactical victory for Ukraine and a geopolitical setback that could reshape the balance of power in Eurasia. For months, scattered intelligence hinted at a covert network China was quietly weaving to resupply Russia, whose military-industrial complex was faltering under the weight of Western sanctions. These sanctions had severely restricted Moscow's access to essential components for advanced weaponry and precision-guided missiles. In response, Beijing intervened discreetly, not with direct military aid, but through an intricate web of shell companies and shadow transportation routes. This network stretched from Central Asia to the Russian Far East, designed to funnel everything from microchips and drone engines to raw materials, all disguised as legitimate commercial trade. Yet, in a single pre-dawn strike, Ukraine dismantled a key artery of that network with surgical precision. Utilizing a combination of satellite intelligence, information from resistance cells in occupied territories, and advanced long-range drones, Ukrainian forces executed a coordinated strike. The target was a train convoy moving through the Amur region, a vital link in China's supply chain to Russia. The resulting explosions triggered a massive chain reaction, destroying hundreds of containers filled with sensitive technology and exposing the true scale of the Chinese operation. As daylight emerged, images of the aftermath began to circulate. They showed fiery wreckage extending for kilometers, with Russian emergency services struggling to manage secondary explosions. Independent analysis later confirmed that many of the destroyed containers carried the markings of Chinese state-affiliated corporations, a fact that directly contradicted Beijing's official denials of any involvement. The implications of this strike are substantial, challenging China's carefully constructed image as a neutral party in the conflict. To understand the full weight of this moment, we must rewind to the silent deals and shadowed economics that made it inevitable. Following its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Russia found itself increasingly isolated from Western financial systems and technology markets. Its military industry, which depended heavily on imported semiconductors and precision optics, began to falter. Russian factories could not produce the necessary volume or quality of weapons, leading them to build missiles with outdated chips and assemble drones from consumer electronics. China observed this situation with a mix of opportunity and risk. While publicly advocating for peace and condemning sanctions, Beijing understood that a complete collapse of Russia would leave it strategically vulnerable to the West. For China, ensuring Russia's stability was a matter of strategic necessity, not friendship. A functional Russia provides a buffer against NATO and serves as a partner in challenging Western influence in global affairs. This led to the creation of what intelligence agencies have called Operation Iron Veil. This secret initiative involved re-engineering trade relationships to bypass international sanctions. Through intermediaries in countries like Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, Chinese goods flowed into Russia. Many of these shipments were disguised as civilian products, such as agricultural drones or industrial machinery, but contained critical technologies needed for the war effort. These included navigation systems, missile guidance chips, and even components for hypersonic weapons development. For a period, this system operated effectively, allowing Russia to stabilize its supply lines and resume a partial production. However, Ukrainian intelligence, supported by Western satellite surveillance and cyber espionage, was closely monitoring these activities. They meticulously pieced together trade data, satellite images, and intercepted communications. The breakthrough came with a leaked communication between a Chinese logistics company and Russian defense officials. The message detailed a heavily secured shipment in the Amur region, officially listed as industrial polymers and electronic components. Yet encrypted data within the transmission referred to GLONASS calibration modules and infrared targeting optics, components used in Russia's advanced missile systems. This information was immediately relayed to Ukraine's military command. At approximately 3:17 a.m., Ukrainian long-range drones, operating from over 1,200 kilometers away, engaged the convoy. The ensuing explosions destroyed the train and its valuable cargo. By 4:30 a.m., the site was a smoldering ruin. While local authorities attempted to frame the event as an industrial accident, satellite images of the wreckage quickly spread globally, revealing the truth. The geopolitical shockwaves were immediate. The strike on the Amur convoy had shattered the illusion of China's neutrality, and governments scrambled to assess the implications. Within hours, intelligence units in the European Union and the United States confirmed a significant increase in Chinese exports of dual-use goods to Russia, equipment that could serve both civilian and military purposes. While China had long claimed these were legal commercial transactions, the timing of the shipments often coincided with renewed Russian offensives, undermining Beijing's credibility. In Washington, senior officials described the strike as a turning point in exposing illicit wartime networks. Across Europe, the tone was equally firm. Germany and France joined the United Kingdom in calling for a joint inquiry under the G7 framework to investigate the full extent of the supply chain. Perhaps the most telling reactions came from within Asia. Japan and South Korea, both historically wary of China's growing assertiveness, viewed the incident as a validation of their security concerns. Japan's defense minister called the strike a reminder that strategic ambiguity cannot coexist with covert militarization. In Seoul, officials emphasized that China's credibility as a responsible power has been severely undermined. Even India, traditionally cautious in its criticism of Beijing, used the moment to reaffirm its position on the need for transparency in global trade and defense relations. Moscow's reaction was one of silent frustration. The Kremlin avoided directly acknowledging the Chinese connection, framing the strike as an act of sabotage. Internally, however, the damage was immense. Intelligence briefings later revealed that among the destroyed cargo were shipments of microprocessors, infrared sensors, and thermal imaging lenses destined for missile and drone production plants near Novosibirsk and Kazan. Analysts estimated the strike wiped out approximately 4 months' worth of manufacturing inputs for Russia's defense sector. Furthermore, it exposed the intricate financial mechanisms China and Russia had built to mask these transactions. Offshore accounts routed through Dubai, Hong Kong, and Singapore, all now under the microscope of Western financial regulators. This exposure created a fracture in the China-Russia partnership. Inside the Kremlin, resentment grew amid suspicions that Chinese firms had failed to properly conceal the shipments. In Beijing, policymakers debated whether continued covert support for Russia was worth the escalating diplomatic cost. Some argued for a stricter neutrality to protect economic ties with the West, while others warned that abandoning Russia would embolden their adversaries. President Volodymyr Zelensky seized the moment to deliver a firm message to the world, stating, "Those who arm aggression will face consequences, no matter how far they hide." His words resonated as Western governments began drafting new sanctions against the Chinese intermediaries identified in the operation. The strike elevated Ukraine's standing, showcasing it not merely as a nation under siege, but as a capable intelligence power influencing global geopolitics. The reverberations extended even further. Across the global south, nations in Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East that had tried to balance relations with both the West and the Sino-Russian bloc began to reassess. The incident reinforced the perception that aligning too closely with authoritarian powers carries unpredictable risks. As one African diplomat reportedly commented, "If China's secrets can burn in Russia's forests, no partnership is truly invisible." By the end of the week, the international order had shifted. The war in Ukraine had evolved into a crucible of global competition, where information warfare and logistical disruption shaped outcomes as much as battlefield maneuvers. For Russia, the loss deepened its dependency on dwindling allies. For China, the path ahead was fraught with contradictions as it sought to repair its global image. And for Ukraine, the operation reaffirmed that the struggle for sovereignty was being fought not just on its soil, but within the intricate web of global supply chains. The Amur strike had shattered a myth, the myth that secrecy can shield aggression and that powerful alliances are unbreakable. The Amur strike stands as a turning point, but the story is far from over. This event has exposed how modern conflicts are increasingly fought within the hidden networks of global logistics and information warfare. As nations reassess their alliances and new strategies emerge from the shadows, understanding these complex dynamics is more critical than ever. For continued in-depth analysis of the geopolitical shifts and covert operations shaping our world, subscribe to our channel. We are dedicated to uncovering the connections that define the future of global security and conflict.